Every morning on the banks of the Karamana River, a solitary figure engaged in a terrifyingly disciplined spiritual routine. According to local lore, his meditation granted him such total physical mastery that he could casually walk across the water. Records identify this individual as a documented historical figure who lived well over 2 centuries and founded the Nalekattu family line. If you look at his descendants, you won't find a lineage of wizards. You will find a highly grounded, deeply practical household of Shiva scholars who were feared and respected for their ruthless precision with mathematics. For generations, they operated as the most trusted senior scribes and accountants for the Maharajas of Travancore, tracking the kingdom's immense wealth down to the final fraction. Which leaves us with a bizarre historical contradiction. How does a family defined entirely by objective, empirical accounting trace its authority back to a man who defied the laws of physics? In the old kingdom of Travancore, the line between the physical and the metaphysical barely existed. Logic and mysticism operated as 2 sides of the same civic coin. The ruling class didn't see spiritual devotion as a hobby. Extreme, undeniable yogic discipline was interpreted as the ultimate stress test for a person's character, proving they possessed absolute, incorruptible integrity. If we want to understand how a family of accountants secured such immense political leverage, we have to look at how their founders' supernatural claims were literally audited by the state apparatus. In this political ecosystem, an impossible feat wasn't treated as a fairy tale. It was a mandatory qualification for handling the king's ledgers. When rumors of the water-walking yogi reached the capital of Thiruvananthapuram, the Maharaja invited him directly to the royal court. As a gesture of hospitality, the king asked what his guest normally ate. The yogi requested nothing but milk and fruit. But when palace messengers delivered a standard, single-person portion, the ascetic politely dismissed it, noting the ration wouldn't even cover a basic temple offering. The king realized this was an opportunity to test the man's limits. The next morning, he commanded the royal kitchens to prepare 30 massive measures of milk and exactly 3,000 fruits. With quiet composure, the yogi sat down before the mountain of food. While his students rapidly peeled the fruit, he steadily and methodically consumed every single drop and every last bite. The king was entirely convinced. He immediately bestowed upon him the title Yogishwaran, a lord among yogis. The state had officially reviewed his supernatural capacity and certified it as absolute fact. That official validation paid massive earthly dividends for the next generation. The yogi's eldest son, Ramanpilla, parlayed his father's divine reputation into a position as a highly trusted senior royal scribe. Recognizing Ramanpilla's exceptional accounting prowess, the king granted him a vast, heirless estate in Kuttamperoor. Here, Ramanpilla constructed the sprawling Nalekattu family home, anchoring his lineage in serious, tangible wealth. But that wealth was suddenly in jeopardy. For years after his marriage, every pregnancy ended before coming to term, threatening to extinguish the family line before it even truly began. Desperate for a solution, Ramanpilla consulted a respected astrologer. The diagnosis was incredibly specific. A lingering spiritual entity was occupying the household, actively interfering with the family's biological future. All the royal favor and financial mastery in Travancore were completely useless against a supernatural roadblock. To save their earthly legacy, the accountants had to venture back into the realm of magic. Ramanpilla sent for a man named Devalasari, a highly celebrated scholar and healer known for his rare esoteric abilities. On his journey to the estate, the healer stopped to bathe at a temple pond. While he was distracted in prayer, a mischievous monkey snatched his drying cloth and scrambled high into the canopy. Rather than chase the animal, Devalasari quietly murmured a few syllables. The entire local troop of monkeys immediately fell into formation, obediently marching all the way to the Nalekattu courtyard to return the stolen fabric. Astonished, but ever the cautious auditor, Ramanpilla asked for one final, controlled demonstration of power before handing over the fate of his family. He pointed to a thick, flowering vine draped across the cattle shed. With a single murmured word, the heavy vine smoothly uncoiled, lowering to the dirt before perfectly winding itself back up. Convinced, Ramanpilla authorized the exorcism, but it wasn't a violent, dramatic banishment. It was conducted exactly like a high-level diplomatic treaty, involving a deeply respectful negotiation with the spirit, offering elaborate sweets and milk to secure its peaceful departure. Ramanpilla successfully managed a volatile supernatural threat using the exact same calculated, methodical negotiation tactics that made him such a brilliant royal accountant. Before the year was out, the diplomatic ritual yielded its promised dividend. Ramanpilla's wife gave birth to a healthy, long-awaited son. The Maharaja was overjoyed by the news. He summoned the family to the capital, physically taking the infant onto his own lap in the middle of the royal court. This diagram outlines the exact mechanism of their rise. Spiritual discipline generated verifiable mythical feats. Those feats purchased absolute royal authority, which ultimately cemented a permanent, highly lucrative earthly dynasty. The king decreed the boy would share his own royal name, Balaraman. By doing so, the state placed its highest official stamp of approval on a supernatural event, converting a miracle into historical fact. Balaramanpilla lived to the age of 90, working as a renowned scholar and physician who preserved the family's high-ranking status within the royal service. For the Nalekattu lineage, cold calculation and mystical wonder were never opposing forces. The magic gave them their unshakable public reputation, but their meticulous math gave them their actual power. Together, they forged a legacy of the impossible and the empirical that outlasted the Travancore kingdom itself.